and welcome to Crazy Dave's Kitchen. Today we're making I would say a superfood bread. It's going to be Parmesan kale bread. I'm not a huge fan of kale. I don't really eat a lot of kale in general. I don't eat a lot of vegetables in general. However, I made this bread the other day and it was really good. It's got a whole bunch of nice ingredients besides just the kale. To start out, I have about 2 cups of chopped kale. I bought some baby kale at the store. I cut away the stems, and this is kind of what we have left. In this saucepan, I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil heating up. And we're just going to throw the kale in there and kind of toss it around to wilt it a little bit before going and mixing in our dough. Now, this bread also has Parmesan cheese, has a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. If you can get fresh, that would be ideal. I happen to get some at the market that doesn't have that cellulose. We all know that cellulose is really wood fiber. They use cornstarch, and anyway, you don't want cellulose. Or just you can grate the cup yourself. But Parmesan cheese can be a little on the pricey side, but it's worth it for the flavor. So we're just going to wilt this a little bit. And we'll go over all of the ingredients over at the workstation. We're going to be using the stand mixer for this project. And like I say, I made this last week, and it's really quite delicious. It has most of and it only yields 1 loaf, so we're not going to be stuck with too much bread. And really, by the time you're done with this, even if you don't like kale, this is going to change your mind on the kale front. So here we are. This is nice, bright green, and a little wilted down, exactly the way we need it. So let's go over to our workstation and put this together. So to start this recipe off, I have 2 teaspoons of honey. I have the camera facing the wrong way, so I can't even see what's going on. I have 2 teaspoons of honey. To that, we're going to add 1 cup of warm water. And then we're also going to add our yeast. You've seen this trick done before with other items. So we're going to just mix this in the bowl. Again, this is to get the yeast active. Yeast and sugar like to make friends together, and it starts the process off. We're just going to mix this up, set this aside. Once I get some of that honey off the bottom there. This is a pretty active recipe as far as ingredients, the ingredients list goes. As you notice, as we get further and further into the series, you see that things start to liven up a little bit. So I have 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. I have 1 1/2 cups of it's great when it's not right in front of me like that, of whole wheat flour. Actually, this is white whole wheat flour. I have, of course, the kale that I just sauteed for a little bit. I also have 2 tablespoons of chopped basil, fresh basil, and I just chopped it up. You can buy this at any grocery store. I have the zest of 1 lemon, if you've ever used a zester, it's a lot like using the mandolin slicer. They're both very dangerous implements. I have 1 teaspoon of salt. I have 1 egg. And I also have the Parmesan cheese. So it's 1 full cup of grated Parmesan cheese with 2/3 cup reserved for after the dough is done. This is the cheese here we're going to add into the dough. So just starting off in our stand mixer, and notice the glass bowl now. This is from my, it's not directly from my favorite Aunt Donna, but at a recent, I had a recent birthday and she sent me some Amazon gift cards, and I used that to purchase this nice clear glass bowl so we can see all the action going on over here at Crazy Dave's Kitchen. So we're going to add the all-purpose flour. We're going to add the whole wheat flour. We are going to mix in the cheese, the larger amount of cheese we're going to put in here. There is one thing I'm missing that actually adds to the flavor, and that is a pinch of ground nutmeg. Now, the recipe, of course, calls for fresh nutmeg, but who has fresh nutmeg? Nobody. You have plenty of nutmeg maybe in your cabinet. I'm going to put maybe 2 pinches, just a light pinch in there, and that's really all you need, because that little bit is really going to go a long way. So we're going to just have these ingredients. Let me just verify that that's correct. Again, this superfood cookbook that I'm getting this recipe in was also from my favorite Aunt Donna. She always gets a unique gift every Christmas. And this bread here is from that gift. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Salt, right? Salt we're going to put in here. And that should be good. We're going to just mix this slightly for a little bit to get this combined. And then we'll add some of our other ingredients. So let's just lock that in place. We're going to let that mix up for a few minutes. Not too long. That seems to be long enough. Now we're going to add our egg. We're going to add our lemon zest. Get it all in there. Let's add our basil. And also Kale, the star of the show. And again, if you don't like kale, you're really not going to tell, you're not going to be able to tell the difference, other than it's just going to make the bread kind of just green and flaky. It's really going to be a nice mix. Once this all forms together, like I say, I made this the other day and it really came out nice. Now once that's combined, sort of, I'm just going to push this down from the sides a little bit, and we're going to throw in our yeast mixture that's been sitting here. And then once the yeast mixture is in, you can see it's a little foamy. That's exactly what we want. That's what the consistency that we're looking for. We're going to add this into the bowl, and then we're going to mix it until what? Until the dough pulls away from the sides of the mixer. Again, if you've been with us for a few recipes, you know that that's kind of the standard way that things go here. So we're going to go ahead and mix this on medium speed. And let it get combined. So this is probably going to run for a good 5 minutes. Once the dough pulls away from the sides of the bowl, we'll do the standard procedure of putting it in a bowl with some olive oil, of course, to let it rise for an hour. So we'll meet back here after this is done mixing. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and you'll see that the dough has formed. It's been well kneaded. It's clean away from the bowl. And there's almost really not a lot in there. You can see the kale is all nice and mixed in there as well. So we're just going to take this and form it into a ball, which it really already is. I'm going to just lightly oil a small bowl with some olive oil. We don't want the dough sticking to the side. We're going to let it rise for 1 hour, and then we're going to put it into a loaf pan into the oven. We're going to, just prior to the end of the hour, maybe 15 minutes before the hour is up, we're going to preheat the oven to 350. So again, kind of standard fare. We're gonna coat the top part of the dough and then the bottom part because we don't want the dough to dry out. We're gonna leave it in this bowl where it's gonna rise and double in size. I have my non-orange Halloween towel that I'm just gonna lay on top of here, and we'll see you back here in about an hour. Okay, so it's been about an hour. You can see the dough has risen. Not by any great length, but risen enough. I have a bread pan that I've oiled with some vegetable shortening. And we're really just going to take this dough and kind of punch it down and form a loaf. There's going to be no second rise to this. It's all nice and mixed and incorporated. Going to seal up the bottom, put it into the loaf pan as best we can, and then we're going to take our this was 1/3, right? Is that what it is? 1/3 cup? Yeah, 1/3 cup Parmesan cheese, the leftover cheese from what we didn't add to the inside of the bread. We're just going to sprinkle it on top. And what that's going to do is it's going to form a really nice cheese crust. It's a harder cheese. It doesn't melt like mozzarella or, pizza cheese, that type of thing. This is going to form a nice crust on the bread once it bakes at 350 for 1 hour. We're gonna bake this for 1 hour in the oven. Even though I did make this bread before, I believe that this time it actually turned out better. The flavor on this is going to be phenomenal. This is still very warm, but you can see that the dough rose. We didn't have to do that second rise in the loaf pan. It does that when it's cooking in the 350-degree oven. With the lemon zest that we put in there, you're going to taste a lot of lemon. You're going to taste a hint of the nutmeg, and you're also going to taste the basil. You're probably not going to taste so much the kale. The kale is really just there as, as nutrition. The nutrition on this bread's very nice. I'm looking forward to maybe making a grilled cheese sandwich with this bread. I think that would be great. I also think ham and cheese and so forth on this bread would be phenomenal. It's a nice everyday bread, and it's only one loaf. And you'll be surprised how you really don't eat that much bread. Maybe you eat more bread, but I find that sandwich bread seems to last quite a long time in the house, no matter what it contains. But this stuff is really good. It's really tasty, very flavorful. Thank you very much. Seriously, try this bread. I think you'll really enjoy it, even if you're not a kale fan. Maybe you've got some kale lying around. Well, if you're not a kale fan, why would you have kale lying around? I certainly didn't. But I picked some up anyway, just to try this, and it's really worth it. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.